Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the senior taster of Whisky.com. This is my son Ben, the master taster. And today we're having 3 Japanese whiskies from Suntory here on our cask. And unfortunately, I haven't been there, but you have been there in 2016.
16, yeah. It's now already been 7 years since I've been in Japan. But it was an interesting tour, and I can still remember a lot from, I think it was 11 distilleries that I visited in Japan. There were quite a number of distilleries that just opened and new distilleries. So the business of whiskey in Japan is booming. And also the international supply of Japanese whiskey is also booming. So what we see is rising prices and less availability.
Yeah. So we here have 3 whiskies on our cask, which are available, but which rose in price over the last years. So the cheapest is the Suntory Toki. It's slightly above 30, and the euro and the dollar is 1-to-1, but the taxes are different. So we say it here, it's 32 euros in Central Europe. And this package has a highball glass in it as well. The second one is the Hibiki Harmony. It's a blended whiskey, as the Toki is. And it's priced, well, in the upper 70s. So it's quite expensive. I tasted that a few years ago, and there it had been, or still below 70. Yeah. And the last one is the Yamasaki 12 years of age. This is a single malt whiskey, the only single malt whiskey here on the cask. And that rose in price incredibly. So I started with that 10, 15, 20 years ago at a price of about 60. And today it's close to 150. And I still remember the Yamasaki 18 years old I had, which I got slightly below 100, and now we're talking about 500, 600, 700. So the prices went up a lot, but there are still some affordable whiskies from the Japanese market as well.
Yes. Yeah, so let me tell you a little bit where in Japan we're looking at today. So this is the main island of Japan. In the very south we have Hiroshima, and to the east we have Tokyo on the main island, and above the whole picture there would be Hokkaido, which is a second island, the second biggest I think in the north. And today we're looking at the main island, and Tokyo is pretty much in the middle, so we're looking at about south of Tokyo. The Hakshu Distillery is in a valley with a lot of trees, very good water. We're coming to that later. Then we have Cheetah, which is on the harbor city of Nagoya, and it's a grain distillery and it's producing a lot. And then we have Yamatsaki, which is in the greater area of Kobe, Kyoto, Osaka. Osaka, yes, and I think there's Toyota also in that region. And yeah, Kobe with a very, very good beef. And yeah, that's more of a city distillery, but more to that later. It all began with whiskey in Japan around the 1920s, where Shinjiro Tori, a businessman in Japan, had plans about building a Japanese whiskey distillery. And everybody's like, no, that's not really a good idea. And they're all really rejecting it. And he wanted to do a proper whiskey distilling, because he probably knew from the Scotch that they imported, and he liked the Scotch, and he wanted to do that, and he wanted to do it like the Scottish did. So he took his best man and he sent him over. He got him like a Western suit with a boulder and the suit, and sent him over to Japan to say, yeah, just knock on the door and say you want to do an apprenticeship, and just do an apprenticeship over there. And he actually went there in 1920s, and he came back after 3 years apprenticeship.
And he married a Scotch
Yeah, but I think he married her later. But and she also moved to Japan.
She moved to Japan, yeah.
And but in 1923, he then founded the Yamasaki Distillery with that knowledge. And in 1924, they produced their first alcohol. The owner of the company, Shinjiro Tori, built it as the Kotobukiya company, and he later then changed it to Suntory in 1929. And there are a few big ones in Japan, and Suntory is amongst them. And they are actually in Japan, they're more known for their water. So there are vending machines everywhere in Japan. If you go over a mountain pass and there's a little like tower, so watchtower to enjoy the scenery in both sides, and below that wooden watchtower where you think, yeah, there's nothing. Maybe there's a little toilet there that just doesn't flush, and there is a vending machine there. I don't know how they get the electricity there, but they have a vending machine, and you can get your Suntory water or Suntory tea or other Suntory non-alcoholic beverages. I didn't see any Suntory Japanese whiskey in that vending machines, but you can get that everywhere. So they are really known for water, and that's really good because you need good water for your whiskey. Later in 2014, they actually bought Beam, as in Jim Beam, and renamed themselves as Beam Suntory. And for reference, they only had the Yamasaki Distillery, and at first, where they founded it in 1923 and 1924 they produced. And in 1972, they actually built the Cheetah Distillery, which is a grain distillery that produces and continues stills a lot. And in 1973, they actually founded the Hakushu Distillery as their second malt distillery.
So we have the first questions here on the chat. One says, Herbie on Wheels, Shubhayu. Is it pre-recorded? No, it isn't. It's live, really. Probably it means that the prices at his location are much higher. Well, that depends where you live and how the supplies are. So how the prices really rise. And Neil says it's 220 Great Britain pounds where I live. So it's quite expensive.
Yeah, 120 pounds is this? A bit more than
220 pounds.
200, okay, that's a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, with the Yamasaki 12-year-old, that's really expensive. If we start off with the Toki, it's still pretty affordable.
Yeah, it's 43% ABV. It's in the 30s, and with this package, there's a highball glass coming with, and there's this rectangular shaped bottle, and this. Oh, I can't read that. I suggest it means Toki, and Toki means
Toki means time.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And today our internet connection doesn't seem to be that well, so we will probably tune it down a little bit, so it might not be as crystal clear, but then you don't have that buffering and lagginess. So yeah.
Yeah, and I forgot, there had been a question, where's your keyboard? And
it's right here.
and well, we now have an employee of our company who helps us out doing the, how it's called, the director's
A production in studio.
Yeah, and we also have a beamer. This is quite popular. Feel yourself as president, and we can read from that beamer, and hopefully we don't lose the line. Yeah. So this is the second time we're tasting this. We just before had the German take, and it's different if you have it the second time in your nose. First time it was very light, very fruity, fresh fruity, green apple, a little honey note, This time there's a little bit more in it, like a little bit of light spices, not hot spices, but very light spices, which you put in noodles, in pasta, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, friendly, light, welcoming. Mm-hmm.
Very, very nice. Very, as you said, light, and it's just intriguing, and you realize definitely that's a sipping whiskey, not a sipping whiskey, a whiskey meant to be enjoyed. It's not that deep, but it's very nicely balanced between that lightness, fruitiness, and a little bit of character already, a little bit of body that is a bit more hefty.
Yeah. Mm. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. In the start, oily on the tongue, you feel the grain whiskey, and then spiciness kicks in, and this has either to come from the pot stills or from the casks, and I think this is more from the casks. Oakiness, spicy oakiness, probably going over a little bit into chili, but this time it's not that sharp as it was the first time I had it, so this is relatively smoother now.
Mm. Mm. The taste is stronger than I expected. It has much character, and they even say where it comes from. It has more of a spiciness, a little bit of a bitter touch to it as well, combined with that nice fruitiness, sweetness. Yeah, so it has oak in it as well, and it comes from the grain distillery as well. You do have a good amount of grain in there as well, and you can have the grain as a light grain or a heavy grain. So
that's different to the Scottish ones.
Yeah,
they have industrial whiskey.
Industrial whiskey, yeah, they do have industrial whiskey as well, but you can make the industrial whiskey light, heavy, or medium. So, depending on how long you make your column still or how you run your column still, you can run them fast, and that gives you more spiciness and more of all the flavors you have in there, or you can run them very slowly, very tall, and then you have just very fine alcohol in it.
Yeah, it's a well-rounded, light, easy to start, and intense enough to have it in a long drink. Yeah, so there are a few questions. Suntory buying Jim Beam, making Japanese great again. Yeah. What's Horst's favorite Japanese whiskey? Well, definitely Yamasaki, 18 years of age. Look that up for the price. It's incredible.
Was it 500?
More of that, I think. And I had that more than a decade ago for just below 100.
Whoa.
So this was wonderful.
Yeah.
What kind of tasting glasses are you using, Andy Kennedy? Well, this is I made that glass myself, and we got a huge production now running, but unfortunately we do not have the possibility to ship them abroad. So it's just here and in Austria, and we hope we will be able to ship it in the upcoming years around the world, but we're not quite sure about that. Prices have to come down for the shipments, so this is it.
Yeah, so let's continue. My first stop was the Hakshu Distillery, and as I said, it's a mountain valley. Here you can see the entrance. It's a very nice area. You have a little bit of a museum. You can learn about the whiskey making. You have the old pot stills in there. You can see from when they started, and there's yeah, a lot of trees on the ground, so you can actually go onto these towers and then have a overview, which is actually the next picture. And here you see a lot of trees in there, good amount of parking space as well. Then you have to walk a lot. So if you go in there, it's a little bit like an outdoor amusement park with a whiskey touch to it. Sounds strange, but I think these people, the Japanese, do like outdoor parks with themes, because we've been to Heidi's Bergwelt, or Heidi's Mountain Town, which was a German mountain petting zoo / wedding place. And yeah, but this one has a lot of trees. It's very, very nice. You have, I think, an bird experience trail, but you have also the normal distillery tour, where you can see the whole distillery, and that is really, really nice, because the Hakshu Distillery is just a very nice distillery. It starts off with the water. The Hakshu Distillery is also, or has a water plant to it, where the Suntory water is bottled, and they chose this place because of the water, because it's just so good, such a good water, such a good mountain water there, that the distillery place was chosen there, and that just makes the difference to the whiskey. Yeah. Then let's dive in, and you have wooden wash bags, traditional ones, and that puzzles me always a little bit, because if you look at the production at Hakushu, it's pretty big. It is really big. If you look at these wash bags, there are many. There are different sizes, but there are many, and they are quite big, most of them. And so they have a lot of volume there, producing there. And still, the whiskeys are sold out so fast and rising in prices because of, too much demand, not enough supply. This is the still room. Left is the first distillation, and right is the second distillation. It's actually their second still room. They had an old still room, which they don't use anymore, with a chandelier in it, and it really looks like old and glorious, but they're not in working condition anymore. But they are a bit of different shape, bit of different size, because the old ones have been a lot bigger. I just estimate that. I didn't measure them at all, because you can't get in there. You cannot get to the stills. It's just too much of a risk, because there are so many tourists they are putting through there, because everybody really likes these places to visit, and they are actually really, really nice. Yeah, in 2014, these distills were just imposed. Fun fact, if you go through there, hopefully it's still there. There's a poster there from you back in 1997. You did a poster of all the pot stills you photographed.
From Scotland.
And they actually hanged it up. And I told the tour guide, my father did that poster. He was like, yeah, seriously. And I was like, no, look, here's my passport, here's my name, and this is the name of the guy who did it, and here, that's my father. And then she actually believed me. Yeah.
Yeah, so there had been a question from F1 Scenes. Are you rich? Well, he thinks when we're tasting whiskies here above 70 and 150, you have to be rich. Yeah, probably, but we are doing this for getting rich.
Yeah.
So we're doing it as a profession. So F1 Scenes, we're not here in private, we're a company, and we're earning money for tasting whiskey. Well, this is a wonderful profession, isn't it? Yeah. And hopefully we're getting rich.
That's the better parts of our job. If you have to manage a company in the end, you have to really try your products as well. So that's the good thing.
Yeah, but not too much, because you might get addicted to it.
Yes. Yeah. Always watch your input, especially if you do it regularly.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I really did count how many grams of whiskey I did intake.
Yeah, and I count as well, and I do not want to have more alcohol intake in a year than 50% of the average of the population.
Oh, okay.
So this should be
with
a
the
distance.
with the average of the population being half of the average of the population is not that hard because Germany is a beer country, and if you don't have a beer every evening, then it's not that difficult to get below that.
So this is the Harmony, Hibiki Harmony, and I like this bottle very, very much because it has these 24 facets around, and you said it's the
Hours of the day and also the month in the moon calendar of Japan.
yeah. So, and I like that bottle very, very much, and it has this glass stopper with a real cork on it, and this wonderful paper label. So this is wonderful. I like it. Oh, I forgot myself. Talk too much. So we have users or watchers, spectators all around the world, and we're sitting here in Central Europe, so it's Greenwich time +1, and I've seen here from Brazil, which should be quite at noon, I think, and some of San Francisco, which is quite early now. Yeah, so we're here comfortably in the evening. It's dark outside already. We had starting frost in the morning, so we had ice on the windshields. So this is perfect time to start with the live tastings here from Europe. I me guess. No wonder Weller 12 in the US costs $499. I don't think that we are still getting Weller for less than 100. No, I don't think so.
As well. These times are gone. But I don't think we're at 499.
No. So now this is the Hibiki. This is a blended whiskey as well. It has 43% ABV as the Toki has, but I think it has a higher malt whiskey content, and it's produced for sipping it neat, not to have it in long drinks, like probably the Toki. Yeah, the aroma is more intense than that of the Toki. It's a lot of complexity in it. There's first is a wooden note. I wouldn't say it's oaky. It's wooden note with a little bit of how it's called, resin, and there's some weird spices. There are fresh fruits like lychees. There are some blooms, floral notes in it. So this is complex, really complex. Yeah.
I like it. It's compared to the first one, you have a lot of herbs in it. You have a lot of, I wouldn't say wood, I would say forest. So resin, like pine, a little bit, forests, flowers, forests, herbs, and oaky pine trees, something like that. I like it. It's different to the first one. The first one, you had more grain influence, and this one is much more complex, goes into much more directions. The first one was balanced within sweetness, floral, strong notes from the heavy grain. This one is more matured, oakiness, stronger notes from herbs and forest.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Much more in it. There is candied oranges in it. There's chocolate. There's honey. Sweet and fruity, juicy. And then in the aftertaste, there is a little oakiness. There's a little bit of bitterness coming through. The Toki had spiciness going over into chili, white pepper. And this one doesn't have that sharpness, but a touch of, well, of dark chocolate in the aftertaste. Yeah, wonderful, complex, full. And I remember I had the Hibiki 12 years of age, which just skyrocketed with the price as well. So they put the Harmony from below, and that rose in price, as I said, as well in the last years.
I like it. It's different to the first one. Much more mature. It feels a little bit older.
Yeah.
And very well rounded as the first one, but more with oak and a little bit of chocolatey notes in it, but paired nicely with honey and more of a dried fruit, little bit of dried fruit notes, some fresh fruits, some not oriental, tropical fruits, and yeah, really nice. I do like it.
Yeah.
I do have see a question or one thing. Why not just ask what's the size of your pot stills? I always ask. I always ask. I ask for mash tun, wash
your
bags.
pot stills.
Your pots? Yeah, your pot stills. And like when I was there at the distillery. Do you think that was a bit dodgy, that question?
Yeah.
No, I always ask the distilleries about the pot stills. But the question is, if they give you they say like 19,200 liters, what's that size? Is that the size? Is that the filling liters, or is that the capacity of the pot still? So you always have to ask the second question, capacity or filling. And probably I did ask, and probably I've written it down, and it's written down in Whisky.com, and you go to database and distilleries and find the distillery, and then there is all your numbers that you want to have, that I got. And I always do the capacity. But sometimes it's mixed. Sometimes they just don't know.
I don't care.
And there's one distillery that actually has a plaque in front of the still, and the number says the wrong thing.
Yeah. So move on.
So the next distillery is the Cheetah Distillery, and I don't have any pictures of it. I think I do have pictures, but I'm not quite sure what the pictures show, because I've actually went there where Google Maps told me there is the Cheetah Distillery. So I had no invitation. I wasn't allowed to go in there, but I said, yeah, I'm gonna take a photograph of the entrance at least. They can't make me have that. Not have that. And I went there, and there is no entries. There's just harbor and big silos for grain, and that's what the pictures I would take. And the other things I just got from the internet. So it does only grain, mostly corn, probably from the United States, and they are doing on continuous stills. And there are 3 different kind of malts they're doing. A heavy one on 2, like column still size 2. Then we have on like 3 size high is the middle, and the 4 size high is the really clean or light one. And pretty much for all of them they use American white oak. So this is kind of their body. So they want to have a body they can have in 3 different shapes. So the master blender, which is the highest job in a distillery or distilling company in Japan, can then have their different ingredients blended together to create the perfect balanced whiskey. Yeah, but the next distillery is a distillery you can visit.
There are a few questions here. So more people, hello from Dublin, Ireland. Cheers. And great news in the States. They have Horst gifts. Yeah. And
we've actually created some of the gifts.
Yeah. Is the Hibiki Harmony now different by any means when you tasted it the first time 7 years ago? Do they maintain the same quality? Well, I do not have this type of photographic memory of tastes. I I remember that Hibiki was well balanced, was fruity, and was of high quality, and that's it still today. So I can say quality still very, very good. And if the taste changed a little bit due to different casks, due to different processes, I don't know. No idea. Yeah.
So the last distillery we're gonna look at was the one in the very south, in the Osaka, Kobe, Kyoto complex, very near to Toyota. So the pretty much industrialized south. I'm not quite sure how industrialized than the very south of Hiroshima is. This is the region is pretty much between like normal and tropical. So when we were there at the end of May, it already had 32 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know, 95, 92 Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Not good with the Fahrenheit.
Around that, it's 100 is, I think, 38.
38?
37, 38.
Yeah, body temperature, I think, is 100. About around body temperature. Okay, so this is the Yamasaki Distillery. So it was pretty warm. I was there in pretty much summer. And it's an old building, but it has been maintained very well. You can see that it's been renovated and kept in very good condition. And it's producing 6 million liters of whiskey per year, which is quite a lot. So it can keep up with the big malt distilleries of Scotland. It's not can't keep up with the biggest, but can keep up with the bigger ones. And since 1971, they don't malt anymore, but they also got good mountain water. And here it starts with the malt and the mountain water in the 2 mash tuns. One very small one with 4 tons, and the other one has 14 tons.
18.
And they mostly use non-peated, but they sometimes do peated whiskey, smoky peated whiskey up to 40 ppm. Yeah. Next up we have the wash bags, and the wash bags are wooden and also stainless steel. So 8 of them are from Oregon pine, with a capacity of 40,000 liters, like you can see here. That's one of them. And then you have 10 more in the back, and then other buildings with made from stainless steel and 50,000 liters capacity. Interesting, they do between 64 and 80 hours of fermentation. So it's pretty long. And when you just ferment your wash that long, then you get fruity characters, a lot of nice, interesting flavors, mostly fruity, that you can then distill into your whiskey. And here is really where the fruitiness in the whiskey comes from. Next up are the stills.
A wonderful still house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the stills show that you have pretty high stills. So the neck of the still is pretty long, and that gives you the possibility to have a very good separation of the alcohol and do a very fine distillation. It's a good kept secret how they distill, but I guess they don't distill like one type, what they do in Scotland, but they do different types, like lighter and heavier, so you can change the speed. I think they're directly fired, so gas fire below that pot. Usually you have steam fired or steam heated, and so you can do a very strong flavor as well. Yeah. Also, they do have old warm top condensers on normal traditional condensers, which I can't really do from like first-hand knowledge. I haven't seen the condensers because you're not allowed to go in there, and that's what I got from the internet and from the distributors. Next up is a craftsmanship of Japanese precision. If you look at the left side of the picture, you can see it's just going straight for like, I don't know, 300 meters. Like, it's just one line, and if you went very close to that, you can see just that is just drawn with a ruler, and then everything accorded to it, and every cask back to that little door there is upright with the bung to the very top and written in perfect letters on there. But they're not storing all of their casks like that. They have rigged warehouses as well. This is where the visitors are told about the warehouses, and then you can walk along that pathway to the end where
This is a little artificial because I've never seen a warehouse with concrete structures on the top.
This is the production building, and I don't think they are storing many casks in there. They're storing the special casks in there, and all the other warehouses are somewhere else, which are higher. If you build something in Japan, build it high, because otherwise it wouldn't be fun in an earthquake, and also you don't have enough space. And so most of the stuff is matured in ex-bourbon casks, but there are still also other types of casks they're using. They do have a cooperage there, so they do make casks, and they have a very long tradition of that. Not quite sure how long the cooperage is there, but it might be even older than the distillery, as the company beforehand also made beverages, but just not whiskey. And probably the sake that they also did was also stored in casks. Talked quite a lot.
So get the air out of the glasses. So we have these small miniatures filled ourselves because we do not want to waste one of these very expensive Yamasakis, and it's rare as well. And if we have to say a customer no, we run out of stock, very unfriendly. So
3 different kind of casks in here. You have American, you have Spanish, and you have Japanese casks.
But does not mean that it's
not quite sure if it's Missionara oak. I think Missionara oak is only grown. It's called Japanese oak. Missionara oak is called Japanese oak. Some call it Mongolian oak. I'm not quite sure. I don't think it's grown much in Japan or in Mongolia. I think only north of Japan and south of Mongolia, and the main part is, I think, in Korea. And a little bit China probably as well. Around that area, so Japan, Korea, and I think Mongolia is not that far away. Around that area, and also Russia is in their region and stuff. So,
cheers.
Ah,
have a smell first. So this one is complex. It's full, it's mature, it's old, and a big influence of vanilla, dark fruits, a little bit of sweetness, big, massive, very friendly. Not a bit of alcohol. Very good.
This is rather intriguing and not that strong. It's very round, and I feel more oak and a little bit of a bourbon character in there. And a good amount of sherry character as well, now that I get deeper into it.
Yeah, sherry should be. Should be sherry in it. Cheers.
Kanpai.
Juicy, sweet, mild in the start, but then building up, bringing spiciness from the casks. A little bit dry in the aftertaste. Those flies here. and spiciness building up from the oak. Very satisfying. A little bit of mouth cladding. Yeah, wonderful.
It's stronger, much stronger than the others. Has a lot more sherry in it, a lot more oak in it, and a lot more maturity in it, I would say. While the others were more balanced, this one, yeah, it has a balance, but it's on another level. Yeah, it's stronger and more intense, but still you have that more of the dried fruits, sweetness going on, and the character of oak in there, heavy. I would have guessed that much older if I had it in a blind tasting.
So, but I wouldn't be able to distinguish it from a Scotch single malt whiskey.
I'd really like to know. I don't think I had anybody in Japan, or maybe I can't remember it anymore, who tell me how to say Kampai. I only know the Gambe. I can't remember the Chinese either, but they are very similar because the Japanese is a lot of the imperial Chinese back in the day when they had emperors in China. Yeah, and there was something. Is bourbon barrel source well guarded secret for whiskey making? Not quite sure how that is. Maybe that's on the Japanese one. The Yamazaki comes from Suntory, which bought Beam, which also has Jim Beam. So the casks for Suntory, the bourbon casks, I pretty much think I know where these casks come from. At least a lot of them, because the Beam also has Maker's Mark and
a very high output.
Yeah.
And the Americans aren't allowed to use those casks a second time. So
they are, but they just don't do it.
They changed the rules.
No, you have to have them in what you call it. Bourbon has to be in matured and fresh oak, but you can
for American whiskey.
Yeah. American whiskey.
But Jim Beam does not make American whiskey.
Yeah, but you could do a bourbon in fresh cask and then refill it into refill cup. Yeah, that wouldn't make it not that much sense.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, Japanese precision. Take that in Germany. Yeah, it's just that is just over precision, I would say.
Yeah. So now we're comparing those whiskies.
Yeah, you can now vote what was your favorite whiskey, and I think I'm still pretty much the same as in the German take. Don't have to change.
What is astonishing is now the Hibiki Harmony has a very big vanilla note on it, which it hadn't before when I just had the first sip. Yeah.
Let me do a bit of a shameless promotion in the end. It's the next live tasting will be the Smokehead Halloween live tasting on the 21st of October, and that will be at 8 p.m. Central European Standard Time. Is that winter time or summertime? We're at that point of the year again.
Not yet.
I think it's still summertime.
Weekend after.
But if you want to know it precisely when it is in your time zone, then go to Whisky.com/live in a few days, and you will see the live tasting there. You can click on it and it will tell you exactly the time when it will air in your area, because let's just face it, you're around the globe and you're probably not in the Central European time zone.
Yeah, the South Africans might be.
I think they have the same time zone, but the rest is just, yeah.
So we have 14 votes, and I've seen some well-known German names in the comments. So probably they
Some
vote
people
again.
Vote again, or had it at least had it in their glass. So my sorting will be 3, 2, 1. Whereas this time it was a bit closer between the Harmony and the 12-year-old.
Yeah, so I have to say, for me, the Hibiki is the first one, then the Yamasaki, and last comes in the Toki. But the distance had been closer. So the Hibiki has this wonderful vanilla note. Yeah.
I do like the Hibiki Harmony. I think it's even more well balanced than the Yamasaki. So if you like your whiskey more balanced, then probably the Harmony is better. It's just more in harmony.
Yeah.
The Yamasaki is just so much stronger.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of single malt whiskies, and in the Hibiki you have a little bit of these grain whiskies in it as well, and the grain whiskies are made, as I remember saying from you, mostly of maize, so corn, instead of the wheat typically used in Scotland. Well, I think they get that over from the States. And in Scotland, they had, well, in the beginning they had maize as well, but they switched over to wheat because the recovery, the yield, output of alcohol was higher then. So probably the maize gives a little bit of different taste in it. And these, as you said, 3 different types of grain whiskey, the strong, the medium, and the light ones, give here more complexity to the Hibiki. Yeah.
Is maize, is that a British word? Or?
I think this is more...
The Americans call it corn.
Yeah, so we call, in Germany, it's called, we have a corn.
Corn is grain. It's the German name. In Germany, if you say corn, it means grain. And if the Americans say corn, for us it means maize, and which is maize.
And corn is typically in the Anglo-Saxon as well as in the old German saying it's the most often used cereal.
Most often used cereal. That's why the corn. Americans call it corn.
Yes, and the biological term is maize. So the English use that, and I think it's also known in the US as maize.
Does anybody in the US say maize? I've never heard that in the US. It's probably, you biologist.
Good evening from Glasgow.
Mm-hmm. So, any last questions before we end? When you type in your questions, I can still do my little shameless promotion. On Whisky.com/live, you will find the next live tasting on the 21st of October at 8 p.m. Central European Time, or just click on that event then and you will find out when it will be in your time zone. And also on Whisky.com/live are more live tastings. You will find, I think we have one for 6th of December or some 5th of December, somewhere around there. I'm not quite sure if you are going to be there. Mm-hmm. Maybe we're going to do a little bit of a live
video
conference, or I'm just going to do it myself. And on the, I think 26th or 27th, just look on Whisky.com/live. You will find it there. You will have the beginner's live tasting. There's also written down what kind of whiskeys we're going to try there. So if you can find them, it's always much more fun if you have them in front of you and try them with us.
Yeah, there was one last question. I've seen that second time now. Popke, is there peat in Japan? Yes, it is. And there are peated whiskies, as we said, for the Yamasaki Distillery. We said as well produced with 40 ppm. Yeah.
Yes, they have like peat weeks. They don't do it often, but there are other distilleries that have a lot of peat in Japan. But it's not that popular. You don't. Let's say you do have a peated smoky whiskey, but it feels more like 10 ppm, somewhere around there. You don't have a 40 ppm. I've never had a full smoky whiskey in Japan that really knocked me out of my socks. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so that was it. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you in October, and thank you, and see you next time.